Discovered my best friend was sabotaging my promotion attempts at work, so I exposed him to our and now he's fired. This past week, I was honored with an industry award in Nashville, thanks to a nomination from one of our agency partners. As a director at my company, I was genuinely proud and excited about the opportunity. My company decided to send 2 junior-level employees to the event as well, thinking it would be valuable professional experience for them, a specialist, 25F, just over a year, with us, first job out of college, and a summer intern, 21F, rising senior. Neither reports to me, they come up a different chain, through another VP, and I barely interact with them in my day-to-day work. But they were absolutely thrilled to be included. For the specialist, this was her very first time flying, and she peppered me with Teams messages asking what to pack, what to wear. She wanted to get everything right. We were booked on flights Thursday morning, coming back Friday evening, a whirlwind trip. I tried to be helpful, sharing little tips about the event, typical attendees, that Thursday night was a country western themed awards reception and presentation, and that I'd be presenting on a panel Friday morning. I could go on, but here are the key moments from this unforgettable experience. Thursday morning at the airport, specialist nearly missed our flight. She didn't have a real ID and had to go through additional screening. She had zero knowledge about any of this, not even about basic flying rules. Her carefully packed skincare, for example, was confiscated because it was over 3 ounces. She was devastated. Already, it was obvious how inexperienced she was with travel. That night was the big themed reception. Most guests were business casual, with a fun Western twist, think blazers and boots. But when intern arrived, I was floored. She showed up in a bandana tube top, a micro skirt, cowboy boots, and a big cowboy hat. I pulled her aside and suggested she might want to run upstairs and change, reminding her this was a business event, not just a party, but she shrugged it off, saying she felt cute and thought her outfit matched the theme. She was unapologetically confident. After the ceremony, I invited both of them to join me and some colleagues from other companies at the hotel bar for networking. They preferred to check out Broadway instead, teasing me as the responsible mom figure. I didn't push, I just reminded them to be safe and let them know where and when the first session was the next day. That night, I sent them a text around 11 p.m. asking if they'd made it back safe. No response. Went to bed. The next morning, I texted again, offering to meet them for coffee before the morning sessions. Again, nothing. I had no idea if they'd come to any of the sessions or seen my panel, but afterward, I found them in the lobby, both looking wildly hungover. There were a couple of free hours between the last session and our flight out. I invited them to a late lunch with our agency partners, thinking this would be another great networking opportunity. They declined. They were determined to visit the Country Music Hall of Fame. I told them I wasn't sure they had time, and again emphasized how valuable that lunch would be. They shot me looks, clearly annoyed, like I was just trying to spoil their fun. I told them firmly I'd be leaving from the hotel lobby for the airport at 4 p.m. sharp, and to meet me there for our shared lift. At 3:45 p.m., I texted them that our car would be arriving in 15 minutes. No response. When the lift pulled up, I texted again. Nothing. When I arrived at the airport, I sent another message letting them know the security line was long since neither of them had pre-check. Still no reply. I texted again at the gate, asking for some sign of life. Finally, 10 minutes later, the intern sends a terse message. In lift, there's traffic. I replied to warn them the flight was starting to board, but there was radio silence. As I buckled into my seat and the doors closed, I realized they weren't going to make it. I put my phone in airplane mode. When I landed a couple of hours later, I turned my phone back on to a barrage of frantic texts from both of them. They were stranded in Nashville, lost as to how to rebook, who to call, what to do. Among the messages was an angry voicemail from the specialist's mom, furiously accusing me of abandoning her daughter, saying this was her first time flying, she had anxiety, was now having a panic attack and required medical attention. The mom even mentioned being terrified of human trafficking. I immediately called specialist and intern back, neither picked up. I texted to see if they'd been able to rebook, and got nothing. I forwarded them both the business travel info with the after-hours contact and texted that I had sent it along. No answer. An hour later, I checked in again. Still nothing. I did not call the mom back. Meanwhile, their director, whom I barely know, as she just joined the company a few weeks ago, reached out asking what was happening. I sent her a short summary and the screenshots of all the unanswered texts I'd sent to specialist and intern throughout the day, along with the transcript of the voicemail from specialist's mom. She acknowledged my response, but didn't follow up. Now, I've received an invite for a Monday morning meeting with their director, their VP, and one of our C-suite leaders. My own VP is on PTO. I can't help but feel that these are adults. I did everything I could to communicate and prepare them, and I'm not responsible for their choices. But after everything that happened, I'm wondering, was I in the wrong here? Update 1. The meeting finally wrapped up, though the CMO didn't bother to join, just another VP, a director, and the internship coordinator from HR. Formal isn't even the word, it felt like a deposition, all of us on camera over Teams, and the whole thing being recorded. The air was so stiff I almost laughed. Right off the bat, the VP asked me to recap everything, starting from the moment we arrived. Good thing I'd prepared. I had every key point ready and stuck strictly to the facts on my own actions. I avoided even a hint of speculation about anyone else's behavior. To make things even more transparent, I shared my phone screen live, all the text messages, each with a timestamp, and even the voicemail I got from Specialist's mom. Nothing left to the imagination. Then the VP blindsided me with a question: had I ever asked or encouraged Specialist to put any expenses on her P card? That threw me for a second. I was quick to clarify, I never asked or even thought about her having a P card. Outside of the Lyft ride from the airport to the hotel, which I scheduled and paid for myself, I was never out with Specialist or interned beyond hotel or official conference activities that needed payment. If anyone should have explained travel and expense policies to Specialist, it was her line manager, not me. They wanted to know if I'd contacted anyone at the office while all this was unraveling. Nope, I told them my plan had been to check in once I got back, but everything happened in a compressed 32-hour window. During that whole time I was trying to focus on what I was there for, presenting as a panel member at the conference, catching other sessions, building connections with our agency partners, and, not to forget, accepting my award. It seemed fair enough to assume everyone else had received guidance from their own leadership on expectations, especially when they were from a different department and I wouldn't know their objectives. I made it clear that if they had different expectations from me based on what other conference office folks were up to, someone should have said so in advance. Nobody asked me if I thought intern or Specialist should be reprimanded, and honestly, with the way the conversation was going, I didn't feel comfortable bringing it up on my own initiative. From what I can gather, my meeting was first, and they're talking to Specialist and intern separately. Afterward, I caught up with a trusted colleague, who gave me some juicy Friday water cooler gossip. Apparently, I really upset intern when I pulled her aside to talk about her outfit. She even posted about it on Snapchat, and a few interns and employees saw it. I haven't seen the post, but those who did are unanimous. It was out of line for a work event. As for Specialist, get this, rumor has it her mom called the previous director about her working hours. Yes, her mom. Several months ago she was pulled off a high-profile project, and apparently when she was asked to put in some extra hours to meet the deadline, her mom complained to the director. Whether that's true, I can't say, but mom stepping in seems to be a pattern. What I'm hoping will help my case: one of my agency partners I spent time with after the ceremony actually emailed my CMO on Friday. It was mostly standard agency sales talk, but in the process he unknowingly confirmed my whereabouts that Thursday night. A small but very welcome bit of corroboration. Last night, I convinced myself that all this would result in an apology or at least some recognition that I shouldn't have had to deal with this mess. Didn't happen, and now I'm left feeling it's still unresolved. I did send my VP all my notes on Sunday, but he's on medical PTO and probably can't check in. For now, I'm just keeping my head down and waiting for whatever comes next. Update 2. Was the post fake? No. I genuinely still don't get why it was flagged or what rules I supposedly broke. Sure, I altered some details here and there in an effort to protect my identity, something I thought was pretty standard online. When my story started going viral and then was suddenly taken down, I was almost grateful for the drop in overwhelming notifications. Throughout that wild ride, my inbox flooded with people demanding proof of authenticity, as if I were some sort of rare, gold-plated, collectible Sacagawea quarter hawked on midnight infomercials. But honestly, I was just a person seeking advice online, not someone with something to prove to total strangers. If someone didn't like my story or suspected it was made up, why not just scroll by? Threatening me wasn't going to prove or change anything about their life. Was I actually doxxed? Yes. Amid dozens of wrong guesses at my real identity, a couple of people actually nailed it, and that's downright terrifying. I can't even begin to fathom what drives someone to such extremes to uncover the identity of a random internet poster. Save your CIA-level skills for the people out there threatening real harm, like those plotting violence at schools or concerts. Those are the monsters worth tracking down, not someone like me, a run-of-the-mill elder millennial juggling corporate imposter syndrome and a dream to retire and rescue way too many ancient Pomeranians someday. Trust me, I am nowhere near worthy of this much sleuthing. Please, pick up diamond painting, craft some friendship bracelets, or look into actual careers in intelligence. Leave the regular folks be. Did anyone from my work see my post? Absolutely, in some form or another, yes, and more than one person at that. It genuinely never crossed my mind that something like this would happen. I mean, this is Reddit, right? Supposed to be anonymous and gone within a day. But the moment reaction videos started popping up on my FIP and People magazine, a web version, but still, I went into panic mode. I really thought I'd managed the whole ordeal well, that I'd moved on from the situation itself unscathed, but my need for validation from internet strangers might just be my undoing. To my knowledge, I haven't faced any formal reprimands thus far, but I'm ready to accept whatever happens. It wasn't my most professional move to air out others' unprofessional behavior where the world could see, and in the future, I'll find healthier outlets, maybe friendship bracelets or, honestly, diamond paintings sound pretty good right now. Will Specialist and/or intern be fired? As far as I know, both of them are still employed, though today marks the official last day for all the summer interns. If one of my own team members had done this, I know exactly how I'd handle it. but I trust my team, they're incredible and probably reading this right now. For specialist and intern, though, the decision's out of my hands. I'll take full accountability for the fact that all of this blew up because of me, but at this point, I just want to step out of this narrative as far as my actual job is concerned. Update 3. Well, the hits just keep coming. I thought the worst was behind me after the initial fallout, but apparently the universe had other plans. First, let me address the elephant in the room. Specialist is still employed, but barely. Word around the office is that she's been put on some kind of performance improvement plan after they discovered she'd been charging personal expenses to her P card during the Nashville trip. Turns out my suspicion about that random question during the meeting was spot on. They found charges for expensive dinners, multiple Ubers that clearly weren't work-related, and get this, a $300 charge at some boutique on Broadway, the same night they ditched my networking invitation to check out Broadway. The irony isn't lost on me. But here's where it gets messy. Last Tuesday, I was working late when I noticed Specialist's car still in the parking lot around 8 p.m. Nothing unusual there, she's been staying late constantly since the PIP started. What was unusual was seeing our VP of Operations, Mark, walking her to her car. Mark's married with 2 kids, been with the company for 8 years, and generally keeps to himself. I didn't think much of it at first, maybe he was just being courteous. Then Friday happened. I was grabbing lunch at the little cafe across from our building when I spotted them together at a corner table, and let me tell you, it did not look like a work conversation. She was leaning in close, he had his hand covering hers on the table, and when she laughed at something he said, she actually touched his arm. The whole thing made my stomach turn. I practically inhaled my salad and got out of there. I've been wrestling with whether to say anything. I mean, after everything that's happened, the last thing I need is to look like I'm stirring up more drama. But then yesterday, I was in the break room when 2 colleagues from Specialist Department walked in, clearly not realizing I was there behind the coffee machine. "Did you see her new purse?" One whispered, "That's easily a $2,000 bag. No way she's affording that on her salary. Especially with the financial monitoring they have her under now," the other replied. "Something's definitely up." They clammed up the second they spotted me, but the damage was done. My mind immediately went to Mark. He makes serious money, and his wife works in pharmaceutical sales, so they're pretty well off. The whole situation is giving me major anxiety because I can't shake the feeling that somehow, this is going to circle back to bite me. What if they think I put ideas in her head during the trip? What if this becomes another reason to question my judgment or professionalism? Meanwhile, there's been radio silence about intern. She finished her program and supposedly went back to school, but I heard through the grapevine that she's been bad-mouthing the company, and me specifically, on her university's career services forum. Something about toxic workplace culture and senior employees who throw younger workers under the bus. It's frustrating because I genuinely tried to help her, but I guess that's not how she sees it. The strangest part of all this? I got a text from an unknown number last week. "You should know what your company is really like before you defend it so hard." When I asked who it was, they just said someone who knows. I'm probably being paranoid, but given everything that's happened, I can't help but wonder if it's connected to all this mess. My VP is finally back from medical leave next week, and I'm honestly dreading the conversation. Part of me wants to mention what I've observed about Specialist and Mark, but another part of me thinks I should just keep my head down and focus on my own work. After all, I've learned the hard way that getting involved in other people's drama rarely ends well. I just want this whole nightmare to be over, but something tells me we're nowhere near the end of this story. Update 4. I honestly don't even know where to begin. The past 2 weeks have been an absolute roller coaster, and I'm starting to question everything I thought I knew about this company, and about people in general. First, the conversation with my VP when he returned from medical leave. I decided to play it safe and stick to the facts about Nashville, keeping my suspicions about Specialist and Mark to myself. Big mistake. Turns out, he'd already heard about my Reddit post from multiple sources and was not happy. Not about the content necessarily, but about the lack of discretion in handling company business publicly. I got a formal written warning in my file, my first in 15 years with this company. The irony of being disciplined for poor judgment while watching actual misconduct unfold around me wasn't lost on me. But that was just the beginning. Last Monday, I was coming back from lunch when I saw Specialist rushing out of the building, clearly upset. She was on her phone, and I caught fragments as I walked behind her. "Can't keep doing this. Told you it was too risky." When she spotted me, she quickly ended the call and practically sprinted to her car. Later that afternoon, Mark's assistant mentioned he'd left early for a family emergency. The timing felt way too coincidental. Then Wednesday happened. I was working late again, trying to catch up after all the drama, when I heard voices coming from the conference room. It was Mark and Specialist, and the conversation was heated. I couldn't make out everything, but I definitely heard her say your wife doesn't need to know, and him responding with something about keeping things professional going forward. When their voices got louder, I packed up and left, but not before seeing Specialist storm out of the conference room, mascara smudged and clearly crying. The next morning, Specialist called in sick. Then she called in sick again Friday. And Monday. By Tuesday, rumors were flying. Some people thought she'd quit without notice. Others wondered if she'd been fired quietly. Her desk sat empty, personal items still scattered around, like she'd just vanished mid-workday. That's when I got the second anonymous text. Check the parking garage, level 3, tonight around 7. I know, I should have ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me, and honestly, I needed to know if I was losing my mind or if something was actually happening. So I stayed late, parked on level 3, and waited. At 7:15, Mark's BMW pulled into a spot 3 spaces down from me. A few minutes later, a red Honda, specialist car, parked right next to him. I slumped down in my seat and watched as she got out and slipped into his passenger seat. They sat there talking for maybe 10 minutes. I couldn't hear anything, but their body language told the whole story. She was crying, he was gesturing emphatically, she grabbed his arm, he pulled back. Finally, she got out, slammed his door, and drove off. Mark sat there for another 5 minutes before leaving. I sat in my car afterward, hands shaking, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. This wasn't just workplace flirtation anymore, this was a full-blown affair that was clearly falling apart. But the real bombshell came yesterday. I was in HR dropping off some paperwork when I overheard a phone conversation. The HR director was talking to someone, sounded like legal, about investigating allegations and potential policy violations. She mentioned both Mark's name and something about financial irregularities. When she hung up, she noticed me and quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. I realized that anonymous tipster wasn't just keeping me informed, they were building a case. This morning, Mark wasn't in the office. His assistant said he was working from home, but his calendar was completely cleared. Specialist's desk had been cleaned out overnight, all her personal items gone, like she'd never been here. The strangest part? I got promoted. Well, sort of. They're giving me Mark's responsibilities temporarily while they restructure the department. The timing is so bizarre that I can't help but wonder if this is all connected. Am I being rewarded for staying quiet, or set up to take the fall for whatever's about to come to light? I still haven't heard anything definitive about what happened to either of them, but the writing's on the wall. And honestly, I'm scared. Scared that someone's been watching all of us, building cases, collecting evidence. Scared that my Reddit post wasn't just internet drama but somehow part of a bigger investigation I never saw coming. Most of all, I'm scared that mysterious texter isn't done with me yet. Update 5. I thought I'd hit rock bottom with the last update, but apparently the universe had other plans. What I'm about to tell you sounds like something out of a bad corporate thriller, but I swear on everything I hold dear that this is my actual life right now. It started Tuesday morning when I arrived at the office to find Mark's parking spot taken by a black sedan I didn't recognize. 2 people in suits were walking out of the building with boxes, the kind of boxes you see in movies when the FBI raids someone's office. My stomach dropped. By 9 a.m., an email went out to the entire company. Please join us for an all-hands meeting at 10 a.m. Attendance is mandatory. The CEO himself was running it, which never happens for anything good. During the meeting, he announced that Mark had been separated from the company effective immediately due to policy violations, and that there would be a thorough review of departmental procedures. He also mentioned that anyone with information about potential misconduct should contact HR immediately. The room was dead silent except for the sound of people shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. After the meeting, I was called into the CEO's office, just me, him, and the head of HR. They wanted to know everything I'd observed about Mark and Specialist's working relationship. I told them about the parking garage incident, the late-night conference room conversation, and the lunch I'd witnessed. The CEO's face got darker with each detail. Then he dropped a bombshell. We have security footage that corroborates your observations. We also have evidence of Mark approving fraudulent expense reports and transferring company funds. That's when it clicked. The P-card charges, the expensive purse, the mysterious cash. Mark hadn't just been having an affair. He'd been embezzling money and funneling it to Specialist. The company's financial audit had uncovered a trail of fake receipts, inflated expense claims, and consulting fees paid to a shell company that traced back to an account in Specialist's name. But here's where it gets really crazy. Yesterday, I was working late again. I know, I need to stop doing that, when my phone buzzed. Another text from that unknown number. Meet me in the Starbucks on 5th Street tomorrow at 6 p.m. Come alone, you need to know the truth. Against every instinct screaming at me to ignore it, I went. I sat in the corner booth, nursing a latte and checking my watch every 30 seconds. At 6:15, someone slid into the seat across from me. It was intern. She looked completely different, hair dyed black, wearing glasses I'd never seen before, and she'd lost weight. But it was definitely her. I bet you didn't expect to see me, she said, and honestly, my mouth just hung open. Turns out, she'd been the anonymous tipster all along. After getting fired, yes, fired, not just finishing her internship like everyone thought, she'd been systematically gathering evidence about what she called the toxic culture at our company. She'd kept in touch with Specialist after Nashville, and Specialist had confided about her relationship with Mark. In turn had been documenting everything, screenshots of text messages, photos of them together, even recordings of conversations. You think you were the victim in all this, she said, stirring her drink, but you have no idea what was really going on. Mark wasn't just sleeping with her and giving her money. He was using her to cover up much bigger financial crimes. Your little Nashville trip? That was supposed to be her alibi for charges she made in 3 different cities that week. My blood ran cold. What do you mean, 3 different cities? Mark sent her on fake business trips to LA, Chicago, and Dallas in the months before Nashville. Each time, she racked up thousands in expenses that he approved without question. They were building a pattern so that Nashville wouldn't look suspicious. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text conversation between Mark and Specialist. Just keep doing what we discussed. By Christmas, we'll have enough to disappear. I stared at the messages, feeling sick. Why are you telling me this? Because they're going to try to pin some of this on you. Mark's lawyer is claiming that you were aware of the scheme and that your Reddit post was an attempt to deflect attention. They're saying you knew about the P-card charges and encouraged them. The room started spinning. That's insane. I had nothing to do with any of this. I know that. But Mark's desperate, and he's pointing fingers at everyone. He's also claiming that Specialist was being coerced and that she's the real victim here. In turn leaned forward. Here's what you don't know. Specialist didn't disappear because she was scared of getting caught. She disappeared because she took the money and ran. Mark thinks she's coming back for him, but she cleaned out their shared account and bought a plane ticket to Costa Rica. I could barely process what she was saying. How do you know all this? Because she called me 3 days ago, crying, saying she was sorry for how everything went down and that she never meant for it to go this far. She's holed up in some resort, spending Mark's money while he sits in jail thinking she's going to help with his defense. That's when she told me the part that made my hands shake. There's something else. That meeting you're having with legal tomorrow? They're not just asking you to give a statement. They want to know if you'll testify if this goes to trial. I left that Starbucks feeling like my entire world had shifted. This morning, I got to work to find that my temporary promotion had been made permanent, along with a significant raise. But I also found a letter from Mark's attorney, asking me to provide a character reference for his client and suggesting that my public statements about the Nashville incident could be considered defamatory. I'm writing this from my office, staring at the empty desk where Specialist used to sit, trying to figure out how a missed flight turned into embezzlement, fraud, and international fugitives. My phone keeps buzzing with calls from numbers I don't recognize, reporters, I think, though I have no idea how they got my information. The craziest part? I got one more text from intern yesterday. Check your email. I sent you something you need to see before you talk to the lawyers. I'm terrified to open it.